One of the most common questions I always get asked in my Wizard101 content is why? Why do I keep coming back to this game that has been technically outclassed in almost every conceivable way for over a decade? That has just been so mistreated time after time with such a complete disregard for its community that it's essentially secured that its golden years are a far distant memory, as this once great titan of the industry now lies helplessly waiting to die as every last cent is drained out of it. And to answer that question, I always say, for better or worse, Wizard101 has and still is a huge part of my life. I created my character when I was 7 years old. I'm now 21. Over 2/3 of the most formative years of my life were spent on this game, on playing on Colin Anvilleaf the Death Wizard. From trying to sneak through the paywall in Firecat Alley while on a landline call with my neighbor, to secretly questing through Mirage in middle school by myself because I was genuinely so worried that if people found out I still played Wizard101, they would think I was weird. To my years creating content on this game, which initially started as me making just terrible Wizard101 memes because all my high school friends started getting girlfriends, and instead of getting a girlfriend, I was looking for an excuse to start a myth playthrough on Wizard101. Wizard101 is special to me because of the memories, the friends new and old, the countless hours invested into my character through questing, fishing, gardening, just the nostalgia that's infused into this account. This Death Wizard is an embodiment of me as a person, and although I know it won't last forever, that's why Wizard101 is special to me. But today, I'm saying screw all that sentimental bullshit, because today I'm going to be power questing through the entire game from level 0 to 170, from Unicorn Way all the way through Wallaroo in only 1 week, with no regard or care for game design or trivial things like having fun. Now, I've wanted to do a degenerate Wizard101 marathon like this for quite a while now. There's only ever really been one problem, and this may come as somewhat of a shock, but I do kind of have a life outside of Wizard101. I'm a rising senior in college, and even over the past several summers and winter vacations, I've worked full-time. But this summer is different, because my job this summer is playing and streaming Wizard101. So thank you for all the support. You're the reason I can do this, so please subscribe. So when the Slade Summer Showdown video popped in my recommended, I finally had the perfect call to action to begin this degenerate marathon. The Slade Summer Showdown was a King's Isle sponsored event hosted and organized by Slade, a fellow Wizard101 and Pirate101 content creator. The event took place over a 2-week period, with participants creating a new wizard with the goal of gaining as many points as possible. Points could be earned through things like world completions, obtaining badges, and farming for rare drops in dungeons. Obtaining as many points for the Summer Showdown as possible was a secondary goal for my run, but considering I was starting this challenge 3 days late because I had to finish editing a different video and had some other real life stuff I had to get done before completely neglecting my real life for an entire week to play a children's card game, I mostly ended up collecting points because it was just really fun and I had no intention of winning. For this challenge, my 7-day timer was to start right after character creation, and while I was somewhat naive to just how difficult this challenge was going to become, I knew best case scenario I was in for a lot of Wizard101. So I knew I needed to create a wizard that would be unrivaled in consistency and longevity. A character capable of terrorizing the game for damn near 2 decades. An undisputed GOAT of the game. What the? Is this just put into a LeBron head? Okay, as I start the run, you may notice there's 2 games being played on the same stream. You see, Lena Bronzespade, the wizard I will be leveling throughout this challenge, is logged in on my second account and is set to the larger screen. The smaller box is me signed in on my main account to my Max Myth Wizard Orin Legend Strider, who longtime viewers of the channel might recognize. By playing with myself... Cut it. By playing on 2 accounts, I can boost myself using a max wizard, one-shotting most enemies through a lot of the game. You might be wondering, isn't this super cheesy? Yes. Does it essentially ruin any enjoyment I could have from actually playing through this game? Absolutely. But one-shotting everything is about the only thing that can enable me to play this challenge fast enough to make it possible. There really weren't many rules to this run besides no third-party exploits or software, and no quest skipping elixirs like the level 50 or world elixirs. But that doesn't mean I can't use certain tricks I picked up over the years of this game and my countless challenge runs. Like the fact that General Achilles, the final boss of Cyclops Avenue, is actually skippable. It isn't even really like a speedrun skip or anything, you just don't fight him and go talk to Sergeant Muldoon and the main quest will still progress like normal. Considering he's a god-like 470 health myth boss that knows dangerous game-breaking spells like Ice Beetle, I'm not even sure it's possible to kill him solo, even on a max wizard, so it's a huge time save knowing I can skip him. Outside of that, Wizard City is the tutorial area of the game, and you kinda just run around helping other students with their problems before vanquishing the great evil that is one of Malistair's minions, the final boss of Wizard City, Lord Nightshade. From the start of character creation to leaving through the world door, Wizard City took about an hour and 10 minutes, which which is actually slower than my best solo time of 59 minutes, but I did waste a good amount of time fiddling and adjusting stuff on both my wizards and setups, so our pace will definitely pick up through Krokotopia. Krokotopia is among my least favorite worlds in the game. It's definitely in the bottom 3. It's just stupidly repetitive and slow moving. Even with the recent remastering, it still just sucks. You also literally only come here to get the Croconomicon, a powerful artifact Malistaire wants to use to try to revive his dead wife, and surprise surprise, it ends up not being here this whole time because the British already plundered this world for its historical artifacts. Who would have thought? However, with a max level carry, it's not nearly as long, only taking a little over an hour and a half to get through. Marleybone's kind of the same thing, although much more aesthetically pleasing. You come here trying to get the Croconomicon, and Malistaire steals it before you can get to it. And regardless of that, this world is just short as hell, even with a max level carry. So with one, I blazed through it in only an hour and 10 minutes. This leads into Mooshu, which you only go to with the goal of gaining access to Dragonspyre, but end up getting distracted by a bunch of evil elephants and a poisoned cow emperor. Mooshu's easily the ugliest world left in this game, home to just some horrendous areas that really show the game's age. I recently learned the lore behind these ugly bamboo textures is that they used to look a lot better, but right before the game released, they started causing performance issues, and KingsIsle was running out of time before launch, so they just said, ah, screw it, and replaced all of it with this hideous wallpaper texture. Ignoring just how much of an eyesore Mooshu is, a high-level wizard carry can only save so much time because the majority of this world's length comes down to just running around. The quests are just stupidly far apart from one another, but we can speed this time up a little bit by using a multi-person mount like the mini streetcar mount, or as I like to call it, the battle bus. How these mounts work is that if you create a group with another wizard, your friend can hop on your mount, and as long as they don't move, you can control the movement for both of you. This also works in instances like dungeons, where as long as the person who got on your mount doesn't move, they will automatically trail you around the dungeon. I am genuinely convinced KI designed this to help people playing on more than one wizard at a time, because if you're playing with 2 people, it's really not that helpful and honestly kind of just clunky. But if you're playing on more than one account at a time, it is a game changer. Harnessing the power of the battle bus, I finished Mooshu in a blistering 2 hours and 10 minutes. This is where I decided to take an unusual detour compared to most of my playthroughs to run and farm the Zeus Aquila dungeon you unlock at level 30. Now, I'm gonna issue a big red flashing light warning. Please, under no circumstances, do not farm this dungeon for multiple hours. The gear in it gets outpaced so fast, and it's just so comparable to Bazaar gear that spending more than an hour here is nothing more than a waste of time. Please only run this dungeon once for the quest XP and the guaranteed Sky Iron Asta drop. This is the best easily accessible early game wand, being one of the first to grant a power pip and a 10% universal damage buff. On top of this, if you consider the balance wizard, Lena Bronze Spade I'm leveling for this challenge, doesn't even really do anything besides occasionally fainting. This isn't just a waste of time, it's a turbo waste of time. I really only came here because getting all the Zeus drops from this dungeon along with the Alpha and Omega ring drop from the secret boss were worth big points in the summer showdown, and taking a break from the monotony of power questing was fun for me and the stream. There was only one problem that I was unaware of because I haven't run this dungeon in like 10 years. The drop rates are pathetically awful here. After 19 runs of Zeus and the Gladiator secret boss, I had only gotten the hat and boots, meaning I was still missing the robe and ring, and after over 5 hours of farming Zeus, I was closing in on the 12-hour stream cap for YouTube live streams, and just about everyone and everything told me to give up and try again tomorrow. But against my better judgment, I picked up a random sitting outside the dungeon for one last run. And let this be a lesson for all those thinking about quitting gambling. Still only have 3. I don't care at this point. Okay, yeah, who are you? You're coming with us. Yep. Shout out Eric. Let's run it, Eric. Eric, you've been chosen. We need you. It's a secret mission. I can't tell you anymore. Just get on the sigil. This guy's gonna come. Oh my god, Eric's actually fucking coming. No way that fucking worked. Eric, we gotta kill the secret boss. If we don't, Merle is gonna die. Eric, bring me the ring, please. Omega. Omega, come on. It's not gonna be here. I got 2 wands. Eric, I love you. Eric, I love you. Oh my god. Eric, they told me I was oh my god. Let's go. Gamblers always win. Yes. Bro, no way he gets me the robe, right? There's no way. I can't be greedy. Yeah, it's not. Farming Zeus is a complete waste of time. That's the other thing that's so painful about this. I'm not worthy. Eric, I am not worthy. I am not worthy. He's a KingsIsle developer? After collecting all the level 30 accessible drops from Aquila and finally being freed, I ended the stream completing my first day with a staggering 11.5 hours streamed. If that's somehow not degenerate enough for you, just wait till the end of the video. It gets way worse. I set off into day 2 with the goal of making a substantial amount of progress into the second arc. The stream began with me having to 1v1 solo fight Cyrus. For those of you who don't know, Wizard101 has a few fights that they force you to do solo, mostly coming at the start of Worlds. A lot of these serve as somewhat of like a difficulty barrier to make sure you have enough cards and your stats are good enough to survive in the next world. Now, I've completely skipped every spell quest because they can be pretty time consuming and I'm racing against the clock here. But this does make these solo fights much more difficult than in a traditional playthrough, but it doesn't really matter yet because Cyrus is low diff, I beat him easy. From there, I grinded through Dragonspyre, taking a brief gambling break before cock-blocking Malistaire, banishing him, Sylvia, and the Dragon Titan into the afterlife, completing Dragonspyre in 3 hours and 45 minutes. But there was no time for congratulations or actually going to class in Ravenwood or just about anything that wasn't straight Wizard101 power questing, because to stay on pace, I had to head straight into Celestia. This was the point in the game where I thought I would stop one-shotting everything, but nope, modern day max wizards are just basically demigods. My myth has over 200 damage and a stupid amount of pierce, so I nuked everything in this world to the tune of a 3 hour and 20 minute Celestia completion. I quested a couple hours into Zafaria before finally hitting level 60 and leaving to go farm Waterworks, the level 60 dungeon. Unlike Zeus, I would 100% recommend everyone farm Waterworks. It's basically required in this game. Getting the complete set is a huge gear upgrade. It's way better than Bazaar gear, and honestly, compared to a lot of the other dungeons in the game, it's pretty easy to get. I got my hat drop from the squid in only 2 attempts, and the final boss who drops the robe and boots is actually easily respawnable. If you have a full dungeon and one person just leaves the room and comes back, the final boss respawns. So he's super easy to farm because you can just kill him over and over until you get the drops you want. Again, I had a full team of maxes helping me, so we pretty easily one-rounded him, so it only took about an hour to get a full set of Waterworks gear, earning myself another 15 points for the Summer Showdown. And after that, I ended stream, logging another degenerate 10 hours straight of Wizard101 streaming. But perhaps the most troubling part about the hours I had already committed is, in hindsight, I was definitely starting to fall behind a bit pace-wise. Day 3 was a little bit rough. You see, Day 3 fell on Father's Day, and apparently having to grind an arbitrary Wizard101 challenge video isn't exactly a great excuse to skip Father's Day activities. This essentially capped my total stream time to only 8 hours, which would end up being the shortest time streamed on any day of the entire challenge. Still, in this stream, I was able to finish Zafaria with a total time of 3.5 hours, and then disaster struck. Wizard101 was an absolute shambles the entire week I was doing this challenge. The servers were the most unstable I've seen them in years, the game constantly crashed, but most importantly, the Bazaar, Wizard101's entire in-game market was just completely broken. They straight up murdered Elec for a week. It was crazy. So when Wizard101 decided it wanted to go down for a surprise maintenance, they didn't even bother to announce on their Twitter or Discord. Not like anyone was going to be, had a stream planned for that time or anything, and I don't think important. I lost another hour and a half of my already limited stream time. There was nothing I could do about it. I pivoted to a Minecraft Let's Play, waiting for the servers to come back up, and when they finally did, I persevered, staying up late to finish Avalon to close out Day 3 with a surprisingly beefy Avalon time of 4 hours and 50 minutes. People don't really talk about this world's length because of the odyssey that is the worlds that follow it, but it's sneakily long. I'm gonna save my story summary for a revolutionary point I'm gonna make at the end of the second arc, but besides that, all you really need to know is Day 3 was the start of my sleep deprivation journey and absolutely destroyed my pacing, making me fall very far behind. Day 4 was a day of reckoning. Marking the midpoint of the challenge, I recognized that if I wanted to be serious about getting back on pace, I was going to have to put in some long hours to get through Azteca and Khrysalis in record time. The problem is, Azteca and Khrysalis are notorious for being bloated, just insanely long worlds. These 2 worlds alone combine for 474 total quests. To put that number in perspective, that's almost a quarter of the entire game crammed into these 2 worlds. Azteca is the shorter of the 2, only having 197 quests, only 197 quests. That's like 50 more than the second longest in the game. But these worlds' gargantuan length doesn't just come down to their quest bulk. They also have insane health inflation. This came as an effect due to King Zhao's effort to make these worlds more difficult. But rather than, increasing the spell pools, making the AI better, or implementing interesting cheats, KI just decided to give every boss in these worlds way too much health. To KI's credit, they realized how unfun this was and strayed away from it in later worlds. And they did go back and nerf a lot of these health totals throughout the second arc, along with some really annoying defeat and collect quest objectives. But I now actually had to start buffing for a round or 2 or join larger team-ups to kill the bosses in this world. I still beat Azteca in one sitting with a crazy fast time of 6.5 hours. If you've played through this world before, you will understand just how impressively degenerate this is. In my last solo playthrough, this world took me over 13 hours across more than 3 weeks to complete. But this stream was far from over because I wanted to make a dent in the longest 277 quest world in the game, a world so infamous for its length, Khrysalis. Now, over my years playing this game, I've switched to the completely based opinion that Khrysalis often gets a lot of completely unfair and unwarranted hate just because it's long, which is super unfair if you really think about it, because the world was released in 2 parts over 2 different updates, so like it's just 2 worlds combined. That kind of explains its length. Knowing I had to make up some serious ground, I played for an additional 7.5 hours straight, beating all of Khrysalis Part 1 in a single 14-hour gameplay session. This gameplay session also included a brief detour to go farm Kronos in the higher Aquila dungeon. It only took a couple runs to get the Blade of the Felled Titan drop, because it's a pretty easy drop to get, but it got me an additional 8 points in the Summer Showdown. Yeah, this stream was definitely the beginning of the end of my enjoyment in this challenge. And that's just because these were undoubtedly 2 of the most miserable worlds to play through in my opinion, being insanely repetitive. I swear I had to defeat and collect at least 500 Flame Legs and Blue Razors. I mean, it was insane. Also, jumping from 8 to 10 hour stream to a 14-hour stream may not sound that bad, but those extra hours cost a lot more on your mental than the initial few, and with the days grinding Wiz stacking up, it was definitely starting to take a toll on my mental. Luckily, this degenerate grind of a lifetime put us back on only being a little bit behind my pace, but that wouldn't last for long. So initially, my goal for day 5 was to grind Darkmoor, finish Khrysalis, and make a significant amount of progress into the 3rd arc. Darkmoor is the second dungeon that I would 100% recommend everyone farm this game as soon as they unlock it at level 100. I wouldn't recommend going for the full Darkmoor tier 1 set, as this dungeon is known to be stingy with drops, and the tier 2 gear isn't that much worse, so a mixture of tier 1 and tier 2 drops is more than adequate for most playthroughs. The problem was that due to the Summer Showdown, I was hellbent on getting every tier 1 drop for the points and the amulet from the secondary dungeon in the same area. And unsurprisingly, with my luck, I hit yet another RNG rough patch. Luckily, my heroes of a mod team, Peanut and Ninja, carefully crafted a strategy that allowed us to consistently one-round everything in this dungeon, except Malistaire, who has a respawn cheat, so it's literally impossible to one-round him. You have to one-round him twice, but we killed him as fast as possible. Even playing this dungeon essentially as efficiently as possible, it took 18 runs and over 4 hours to get the hat, robe, and boots I needed from it. While I would definitely say this is pretty bad RNG, I've had it only take 5 runs in the past, there are some horror stories with this dungeon of people running it 30 plus times and still not getting everything, so I can't really complain too much. I then started running Shane Von Shane's dungeon to get the amulet, which was the last piece of gear I needed to 100% Darkmoor. You can literally skip every other boss in this entire dungeon by marking on the corners of the barriers, porting back to the marker, and running at a weird angle, which literally enables you just to phase through all the barricades. Sure, this is technically a glitch, but it's literally been in the game for over 10 years at this point, so I'd argue it's become more of a feature than anything else. Still, even only having to do the last boss fight, which is an easy 1 round for the drop, it took over 2 hours and 20 runs to get the amulet because my RNG was just not cooperating. I was in and out of Darkmoor in 6 hours and 10 minutes, which may seem pretty good, but considering how fast I was completing every run, this time was really bad and much longer than I had predicted it would take. The next 4.5 hours on stream were spent racing through Khrysalis Part 2, finally killing Morganth, bringing my total Khrysalis time to 11 hours, and my total day 5 stream time to also 11 hours. Now, I was fully ready to go full degenerate mode and stay up for another couple hours streaming to at least beat Polaris to get back some of the hours I lost to Darkmoor RNG, but of course the servers went down with yet another maintenance. So I decided just to go to bed to wake up refreshed bright and early because I was going to need my energy for the degeneracy that was about to occur. But before we move on, I want to give you my second arc story summary along with a big revelation I made while playing through the second arc this time around. And I'll admit right away, I'm the second arc's biggest hater. Go back to my first Wizard101 video. I think the second arc story sucks. And while I definitely think there's room for different opinions to mine in terms of, you know, the theming of these worlds and whether or not you like the gameplay, it cannot be denied any longer that the second arc story just completely does not work. Purely from the perspective that the wizard does absolutely nothing valuable in the second arc. And before you disagree with me or go to the comments to yell at me, I just want you to answer one simple question. What does the wizard actually do that impacts the larger Morganth storyline? Because in Celestia, Morganth just goes there to get more power from learning astral spells and all that stuff, and we don't stop her from doing that. We literally only encounter her in like the last 2 minutes of the world. Zafaria, we spend that whole time saving that field trip, which I guess is pretty cool, but in the end, Morganth ends up getting the Deck of Shadows, which was like her whole point of going to that world, so we don't stop her from getting any stronger. Avalon is literally the only world in this arc where you can kind of argue we win something because we recruit a lot of people to like the Council of Light and we get the Sword of Kings. But again, the people the wizard ends up recruiting do absolutely nothing in the long run to stop Morganth. King Artorias, the main character of this world, the whole plot of reviving him, he never even leaves this world. He never leaves Avalon. He never fights Morganth. This was pointless. And no one's buying the fact that the Sword of Kings with these stats is a powerful enough artifact that it's actually going to come in handy defeating Morganth. Okay, my level 31 mops the floor with these stats. Azteca, you just straight up lose. Morganth learns the Song of Creation anyways, and the world gets destroyed. This is a serious Raiders of the Lost Ark problem. Literally nothing in the first 4 worlds of this arc would have changed if the wizard just never even existed in the first place. Okay, even in Khrysalis, where there's the climactic fight where you face off against Morganth, you don't even actually defeat her. It's ultimately her lust for power that is her undoing as she cascades off the end of the world. Genuinely, the only argument you can make that the wizard does something is he pushes Morganth a couple feet back onto glass, so when she sings the Song of Creation, the power causes her to collapse. But like, I don't think her standing on glass is the difference. I think she was doomed to be overcome with power anyways. The whole entire building would have collapsed at a certain point. She would have, you know, still died. Like, it doesn't change anything. So while you may help smaller characters and communities throughout the second arc, which I guess has some value, just purely talking about the larger Morganth storyline, she would have just done everything the same, become overcome with power, and eventually led to her own defeat if the wizard was just never there. The wizard does nothing. You do nothing in the Morganth. It's so dumb. At least Darkmoor's story's so good, it salvages some of the second arc for me, but yeah, it's pretty unsatisfying to realize that you actually do nothing in the second, like you're pointless to the story in the second arc. So hope that helps your hundreds of hours of questing feel like it was worth it. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I've only completed 2 of the 4 arcs, and now I have only 2 days left, so we're gonna have to average an arc a day if we want to get through this. While that may sound straight up impossible, looking back at our pacing through the first 2 arcs, the 3rd and 4th arcs are considerably shorter than the second arc, and there were no more dungeons I had to farm. All I had to do was power quest. Still, I had fallen really far behind pacing-wise, and it was gonna take a miraculous late-game strategy shift to pull this off. But as you all should know by now, when it comes to degenerate, arbitrary challenge runs, I've always got an ace in the hole. What I'm about to show you is the single most broken team-up strategy in the history of Wizard101, capable of one-shotting essentially every boss in the game. See, Wizard101 has a feature where 4 wizards join a battle and they are all in the same group together, they will always go first. You literally can steal first from your opponents using this. Going first every fight, especially with one-shot strats, is such a time save because it cuts out on so many unnecessary enemy spell animations. But oh boy, we're not done there. You see, there's a spell most casual Wizard101 players have never even seen before called Incindiate. How Incindiate works is it destroys all overtimes, making them deal 200% of their total damage. This means it turns Fire's pretty bad AoE Scald spell from a spell that deals 825 damage over 3 rounds to a single impact 1650 damage 5 pip spell. The only problem is Incindiate costs 6 pips, preventing this from being a 1-round combo. Unless you run it on either a Fire Wizard or a Wizard with a Fire Mastery that also has a high level Decathlon deck equipped, allowing them to start the battle with 6 pips. While they won't be able to use any non-item or treasure cards, it won't matter, because the round 1 1650 damage AoE combo combined with modern max stats, and a few feints and other buffs, yeah, nothing's living that. The only annoying part about trying to run this strategy is the only way to get Incindiate is from the Professor's Horde pack. It's only on the Dahlia hat this strategy is super pay to win, and it can get pretty pricey to get at times, but come on, I'm a famous skilled gambler. And I'm literally gonna get the Dahlia hat first try, so like, watch this shit. Literally first pack, so you just have to ask nicely. See, so when you ask nicely like that, they give you it first pack. Really that simple. Actually, most people don't know that. That's crazy. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done. Because I had also run various decathlons on my Fire already, I had a high enough level deck crafted, and with the help of rotating max level Fire carries from chat, we were ready to shred through the 3rd arc. I started streaming at 2 PM with the goal of beating the entire 3rd arc in 1 day. Polaris was an absolute breeze and honestly just super enjoyable overall. I absolutely love this world. I incendiated my way through it in about 3 hours. Then it was on to Mirage, which definitely ended up being more of a grind than chat and I expected, but it's also one of my favorite worlds in the game, so I didn't really think about it at the time, but it still took up 5 hours and 5 minutes, which was fine because I love this world, but it was over an hour longer than chat and I predicted it would be. You know, in hindsight, I probably should have realized that some of our estimates may have been a little conservative on the times of worlds, but yeah, yeah, this is a trend that's going to continue and mark the beginning of the end for this challenge. Empyrea was where things just went completely off the rails. I took a 2-hour break thinking, oh, Empyrea's not that bad, the later worlds are shorter, I'll get through it in like less than 5 hours. Because to be fair, that's also what chat and everyone online was saying. I restarted stream at 10ish PM and this god-forsaken, bloated, pork and beans, boring-ass world ended up taking 7 hours and 20 minutes. I was up quite literally all night till 6 AM the next day just grinding Wizard101. The sun literally came up behind me during the final dungeon. While admittedly this day sucked, at the very least I had stayed committed, literally staying up all night to finish the third arc in a single 15-hour gaming day, gaining back a lot of my pace. So from here I was thinking, okay, one more arc, it'll be another 15-hour stream, and then I'll be done with this challenge. You know when you're rewatching a movie and the character has no idea what tragedy they're about to go through? And you're kind of just sitting there like, oh boy, I don't envy that guy? Yeah, that's how I feel editing this. Okay, let me set the stage. I started streaming on day 7 after sleeping all morning at around 1:30 PM my time. Now, my 7-day timer didn't end at midnight, it ended at noon my time the next day, because that's the time I started streaming on day 1. The 7-day timer didn't start until I created my character. Trust me on this one, if you think about it really hard, it'll make sense. So I essentially had about 23 hours left to beat the entire 4th arc. Now, I had mapped the 4th arc out in my mind as the first 3 worlds taking about 4-ish hours each, and the last world taking closer to 5. So I was hoping to beat the first 3 worlds, Caramel, Lemuria, and Novus, take a quick nap, and then wake up to finish Walrus. It seemed like a good enough plan until Caramel, the shortest of the worlds, took 4 hours and 50 minutes to beat. To be fair, Caramel should have been under a 4-hour world, but at least 5 times I just didn't get dungeon credit on one of my characters or the game broke in some other way. I've literally never even had strong feelings about Caramel before. I thought it was such a mid-world, but I hadn't had these issues in the past. But oh my god, is it now easily my least favorite world in the entire game. It constantly just does not work properly. It was just so frustrating not getting quest credit or having to relog and reboot because I kept losing the stupid main quest objective. This was so frustrating, in fact, that I can confidently say this was 100% the low point of the challenge. Doubt started to creep into my mind. I was just so hungry, sleep deprived, and so bored of Wizard101 that I thought if all of the 4th arc was like this, I might as well just throw in the towel and just make this an 8-day challenge or a 10-day challenge instead of trying to cram it all into 1 week. I was so annoyed and overwhelmed, I literally took a 20-minute break after this world just to decompress and lie on my bed. And I just kind of started to wonder, was this challenge even worth it anymore? I mean, it had genuinely gotten to the point where it was really taxing on my mental and physical health. Chat also started to see the state I was in and told me it would be okay to give up. No one would blame me. We gave it a run, you know, and in retrospect, if you think about it, had I not done Aquila and Darkmoor, I definitely could have got this done, and I kind of just accepted the excuses that chat was giving me. But as much as I wanted to quit, god damn it, when I set my mind to something in my children's card game, I'm gonna do it. So I locked back in, speedrunning through Lemuria in 4 hours and 55 minutes. This is an extremely impressive time considering it's over 20 quests longer than Caramel. Then, with 13 hours left in the challenge and before I could head into Novus, we hit another huge roadblock. See, to enter Novus, you have to win a solo fight against a balanced, cheating, unformed beast, and this thing is genuinely pretty strong. Now, this is a forced solo fight. Even if your friend tries to port in, it won't let them, and as a friendly reminder, I still don't even have a balance plate. I also physically do not have enough time to go do all my spell quests if I want to get this challenge done on time, and I'm also still rocking Darkmoor gear. Okay, this fight would genuinely be impossible if it wasn't for the single most overpowered card in the entire game. The true trump card of Wizard101 and the entire Spiral as we know it, the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. For those of you who don't know, henchmen can be purchased with crowns even in 4 solo fights and essentially act as your own personal minions. The later world more expensive henchmen are so hilariously broken, they kind of just automatically win you every one of these solo fights. So by spam buying henchmen, I was able to easily defeat every solo fight in Novus, relying on a chat carry for the rest. Now, am I proud of what I had to do? No, but at this point, nothing was stopping me from finishing this game on time. I finished Novus in a very respectable 4 hours and 20 minutes as we were now entering the final countdown, a race against the clock, no time to sleep or take a break, we had to blitz through Walrus. At this point, I had been live for nearly 14 hours and had a little over 7 hours left to complete this challenge. Now, Walrus has some of the most challenging solo fights in the game that I just had to square peg circle hole with henchmen and other jank strategies. Honestly, I barely remember playing this world, especially towards the end. I was so sleep deprived, and honestly, watching the VOD, yeah, it's like I'm not even coherent. My brain was truly fried from consuming so much Wiz in such a short time that I definitely played this world super inefficiently. I got to the point where I wasn't even checking the time anymore, just fighting to stay awake and click on cards. So as I limped over the finish line, completing the last quest in Wallaroo, reaching Selenopolis, I wasn't even sure whether or not I had done it. So I checked the clock, seeing it was 11, meaning I had completed Wizard101 level 1 to max in a week with a little less than an hour to spare. I took a much needed nap and break after my 22-hour 4th arc marathon before completing the Wallaroo badges and crafting quests, bringing my point total to 315 points, good for 6th place overall in the challenge. In total for this challenge, I coincidentally streamed 101 hours in 10 days, but 92 of those hours were done in a week span purely power questing Wizard101. I considered trying to grid it out to black out the board, but had awful Reaver drop luck and wasn't really willing to grind for the rarest drop in the game, the Amulet of Divine Influence, which I could literally spend 30 hours trying to get and not get. But mostly it came down to someone even more insane than me had started on time 3 days earlier and already completed everything on the board, so I would basically be playing for 2nd place, and I just decided against it. It was enough for me to play just enough to ascend my balance to a 230 damage, 50 pierce demigod, and I was content to not touch this account for at least another couple months. Although there was one last challenge I wanted to conquer before I hung up the wand. Fuck! Seconds? Oh. Alright, we're gonna try this from 2nd. It's probably a death wish, but we're gonna have to try it. He's setting up a trap gambit. What will I ever do? This stupid boss ruined game 7 yesterday. Wait, that was actually really funny, chat. I don't know if my Pierce... I didn't socket the Pierce jewel on my deck. I think that's gonna get me. Oh, I don't think we get there. Okay, crit's huge. Wait, crit's actually so big. Please, bro. Please. Please. Oh my god, dude. Barely. To end this video, I want to give a huge shout out to Slade. He has some really awesome Wizard101 content and Twitch streams, so I've left his links at the top of the description. Please go give him a follow and check his stuff out. He actually does Pirate 101 content, and I know a lot of you are so down bad for Pirate 101 stuff, so please go check his stuff out. I know he's working on a summary video for this whole challenge right now, and I'm personally super excited to see that. I'm genuinely still so curious how 1st place was able to black out the board in such a short amount of time. This was the coolest event I think Wizard101 has ever had, and from what I can tell, it was pretty much run exclusively by Slade and his mods, which is just so cool. Please go show them some support. They 100% deserve it. It's kind of a shame that I had a lot of people coming into my stream, and that was the first time they've heard of it. I think KingsOut definitely needs to promote this more if they do it again. This should be front page on the launcher. It would also be so awesome if they could do this again and make it like actually in the game, like Scroll of the Fortune-esque, and maybe even some guaranteed rewards in a game-wide free membership period, but that's probably too good of an idea for KingsOut to do. I would also like to just say a huge thank you to everyone that helped me while questing or just kept me company throughout this marathon. This is as much your challenge run as it is mine. Special shout out to Ulysses, the GOAT, Colin, Peanut, and Ninja for carrying me through so much of this game. And to truly end it, well, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break from Wiz to regain my sanity. When I do come back, I've got something pretty big planned.